Most of the world knows him as the Irish saint who banished the snakes. But he wasn't Irish, and there were no snakes in Ireland. The true story of St. Patrick is of a fugitive slave running for his life. A visionary mystic. A radical priest fighting for his mission. An outcast, beloved by a nation. In his wake, two worlds collide. One is transformed forever.
as a young boy.
Though Patrick never recorded his boyhood sin, some still wonder if it was debauchery, thievery, or worse.
We know that it troubled his conscience severely, and he felt the need to confess it.
The man to whom Patrick confessed had once been his staunchest supporter.
Now that man was bound never to repeat that. And the awful thing was that this man came out and told this sin before the whole tribunal.
To him I have confided my very soul. He let me down before all.
This sin was used as a pretense by the bishops of Britain to try to get him kicked out of Ireland.
When I was accused on that day, was I struck so that I might have fallen now and for eternity?
Here are his people degrading him. It was a big shock.
And Patrick was crushed under the heel, as he said.
He sank into such a depth of despair and depression that he didn't think that he was ever going to get out of it.
He nearly lost the faith.
May God never permit it to happen to me that I should lose his people in the uttermost parts of the world. I pray to God to give me perseverance. I saw my own face with shameful words of accusation written around it. But then I heard God's voice saying to me, "We are very angry that my chosen one has been criticized." The voice didn't say, "You are angry," but "We are angry," as if God were speaking for both of us.
The voice that had led him out of bondage now restored to him his renegade spirit. In a personal testament to his life and mission, he flatly refused the bishop's summons.
Bishop Warwick, I am Patrick, a sinner, most unlearned, the least of all the faithful and utterly despised.
Declaring his innocence, Patrick told the story of his life in language that was direct and heartfelt.
Let those who will laugh and scorn, I shall not be silent.
He had character. He wasn't going to be put down by anything. Nothing put down Patrick.
I cannot hide God's gift, which he bestowed upon me in the land of my captivity.
Through his story, he offered a song in praise of God and his creation.
There I sought him, and there I found him, and he saved me from all evil.
His mission is driven by his faith experience, and they don't get that, and they ought to get that if they're men of faith.
You men of letters, listen and pore over this. Who was it that roused me up, the fool that I am? He inspired me, the outcast of this world, to faithfully serve the people for the duration of my life. This is my confession before I die.
Shaken by the force of his testament, the bishops backed down. For the rest of his life, Patrick of Ireland continued to minister to his adopted people. The Irish rewarded him with their love. At the time of Patrick's death in the mid-5th century, Western Europe was in chaos. The Roman Empire was burning at the hands of barbarians. The Dark Ages were about to descend upon all of Europe. But the Irish church Patrick founded continued to flourish. All over Ireland, his followers raised stone crosses 3 men high, announcing the success of the new faith. Ireland became the principal center of not only piety, but of knowledge. During the Dark Ages, literacy survived only in monasteries. The Irish clergy became the luminaries of the Western world.
People came in from Europe and in from Britain and came in. There were thousands of people coming to school here after Patrick's time.
Fugitive scholars from all over Europe saved ancient texts from the barbarians and smuggled them into Ireland. They turned its monasteries into the storehouses of the great works of Western literature and the birthplace of a new Europe.
The Irish invented European civilization. And while they're doing it, they do a number of other extraordinary things. Invent everything that you and I take for granted on the printed page.
They were the first to separate words one from the other. Up to that, words were all stuck together. The Irish separated words.
And they developed ideas like paragraphs and the difference between uppercase and lowercase, and just this huge explosion of creative activity.
Irish monks copied and illuminated the classical works of Western civilization. The most glorious of these manuscripts, the Book of Kells, depicts the 4 Gospels. The monks who created it included whimsical allusions to monastic life, along with their own caricatured self-portraits. These pages honor their warmth and humanity and their playful sense of humor. The Book of Kells intertwines Christian and Celtic imagery, uniting Patrick's Ireland with its pre-Christian past. This celebration of what was beautiful in both cultures is a testament to Patrick's genius, which brought the two together in a loving embrace.
7th century legend produced a Patrick, which is really the Patrick that most of us know.
Well, the church is trying to make him a standard bishop by dressing him up with mitre and scepter, more or less, as a standard continental style Orthodox bishop would be.
An ambitious Irish church seized Patrick's legacy. They circulated among the faithful fables and miracles chronicled by Murrow, Patrick's first official biographer. One of the most famous legends describes Patrick's triumph atop the Hill of Slain, where he lit the first Easter fire on a sacred pagan holiday. When the furious king retaliated, Patrick made himself and his retinue disappear.
They weren't trying to be deceptive and trying to make up imaginary stories about Patrick, but Patrick to them was a hero, and they wanted their hero to have the same quality as all of the other great Christian saints and be able to work miracles and to do wonderful things.
St. Patrick was said to have chased all the snakes out of Ireland. And though he did rid Ireland of the serpentine spirit of paganism, there had not been a snake in Ireland since the Ice Age. Irish folklore married the familiar 3-leafed shamrock to Patrick's tail. Legend claims he used this sacred plant of the Druids to explain the Holy Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
We don't have any good evidence that Patrick ever used a shamrock in his explanations of the Trinity. He might have, but we just don't know.
But Patrick's life was legend and miracle enough. He electrified people with his teachings, and he still inspires thousands to journey across Ireland to pay him homage. Down Cathedral in County Down claims to be Patrick's final resting place. But so does Seoul, where Patrick is said to have founded his first church. Croagh Patrick in County Mayo marks the spot where legend claims Patrick spent 40 days and nights communing with God and banishing the demons. For hundreds of years, pilgrims have climbed the mountain as an act of penance. On the last Sunday in July, thousands still ascend the mountain to honor Ireland's most famous saint.
I suppose wherever the Irish went, they brought him with them, this figure of St. Patrick. And I assume that the great St. Patrick's Day parade on the 17th of March is a direct descendant of that.
The first St. Patrick's Day parade was organized by homesick Irish immigrants in America. Over 200 years ago, on the traditional anniversary of St. Patrick's death, Irish soldiers in the colonial army marched through the streets of New York to pay Patrick loving and joyful tribute. Today, on March 17th, in cities around the world, more than 50 million people gather. Both Irish and not, they celebrate St. Patrick with annual parades and festivities he could never have imagined.
If Patrick were to come back and somebody were to say, I have a little balcony here on Fifth Avenue, I want to see this parade, he'd jump off the balcony and say, stop! This is not what I was preaching at all. Now disperse, go home and pray and help the poor.
What is striking about Patrick is that he is the only citizen of the Roman Empire to have been taken captive, to have been taken away from kith and kin, from home and hearth, to have lived in that place for 6 years. To have escaped from it. To have written his experiences, for those experiences to have survived. There's nothing like it anywhere in the world. Not just in terms of Irish history. This guy is absolutely exceptional.
So we have seen it, and so it has been fulfilled. However ignorant I was, I dared to preach his gospel for a testimony to all nations. I pray whosoever deigns to look at this writing, which Patrick, the sinner, has composed in Ireland, let this be your conclusion. It was the gift of God.